Hey everybody, Dom here. 6 new maps were added to Team Fortress 2 as part of the Smissmas 2021 content update. In this video, I'm going to review them. Let's begin. The first map is called Altitude. It's a 3 control point attack and defend map. It takes place on a mountainous area with a ski lift and a gondola station. In the lore of Team Fortress 2, it isn't clear as to why the blue team would want to attack and take over the buildings on this mountain. Usually Team Fortress 2 maps are themed around a location being a facade. The reason the teams fight is for the missile bases underneath the industrial facilities and not for the industrial facilities themselves. There are some computers and other such spy tech theming near the final point, so maybe that's the goal. This map looks great. It's quite pleasurable to look at while playing. The only strange detail are these windows that don't make sense. This area is underground, so the windows lead to nothingness. Another detail to note is this ladder, and this ladder on the other side. Historically, ladders have been patched out of Team Fortress 2 maps because they're misleading for new players. Climbing ladders isn't a mechanic in this game, but it is in many other games. To avoid confusion, ladders are usually not placed in the play space, and when they are, they're usually removed in an update. Out of all the maps added in this update, this one plays the best. The back and forth fighting of the teams is the height of Team Fortress 2 gameplay. One of the reasons is that there are a lot of side paths, so there's no large choke point where a team has to funnel through. The best course of action is often to spam damage down choke points. Since this map doesn't really have choke points, it remains relatively spam free. One highlight of gameplay on this map is the verticality. The map has a lot of hills. The vast majority of combat encounters on this map take place at differing height levels. It's rare to face an opponent on flat ground with no elevation. It's really fun and a bit more difficult to have to constantly aim weapons with elevation in mind. I can see veteran players enjoying this map for the slight extra challenge. Sentry nests feel fair on this map. None of the engineer sentry spots, like this area, or this area, or this area, feel 100% unbeatable. I think this map has some pretty great sentry spots, but none feel overpowered. In terms of optimization, this map is acceptable. There are some frame rate dips here and there when there are many players on screen, but for the most part, the frame rate is good enough on this map. The second map is called Bread Space. It's a single stage payload map. This map is set on a moon base. There are bread monsters throughout the map that explode when damaged and deal damage around them to the activator and to enemies. There's also a giant bread monster in a pit at the very end of the payload track. The inclusion of this map in the Smissmas update is perplexing to me. The map was made as a Halloween map. It even still has the Halloween tag on its page on the Steam Community Workshop. When you consider that this map was made for Halloween, a lot of the theming makes more sense. The explosive bread monsters are simply explosive pumpkins with a different model. The blood on the walls and the bloody text on the walls alluding to bread monsters taking over and killing everyone makes more sense as a Halloween backdrop. It seems like an inspiration for this map's theming is the Alien franchise. That would explain the eggs scattered throughout. Since this map is a Halloween map, I wonder what's going to happen to it when the winter holiday event concludes and the holiday maps are removed from the casual matchmaking map pool. This map feels unfinished. It has a few large flaws. One flaw is the placement of Red's first spawn room. The map is really large, and Red's first spawn is really far away from where the payload starts. Engineers setting up teleporters for the Red team to get to the front lines feels essential on this map. To put things into perspective, on this map, it takes 27 seconds for a Red pyro to get from spawn to the payload cart. Compare that to Barn Blitz, it takes 13.3 seconds, or compare that to Badwater, it takes 20.1 seconds. 7 extra seconds of travel time may not seem like a lot, but consider it applies to all the players on the Red team every single time they die, and it accumulates quickly. It's sort of like adding 7 extra seconds of time to all of Red's respawn times. Another large flaw with this map is the doors. There are many doors. Some are usable, and some are fake. The problem is, there's no consistency. It's not possible to tell a real door from a fake one because half the time, an identical door will be real and half the time it'll be fake. This is horrible, especially the first time players play this map. Let's look at some doors. This door is real. This door is fake. Same garage shutter door texture, but it's just a wall. This door is real. This door is fake. One side of the spawn is an exit, and the other is not. This door is real and leads to a creepy Easter egg room with bloody graffiti, and this exact same door in the room is fake. This door is real, and this door is fake. This door is real, and Oh, wait. No, that's actually fake. That's a fake door. So is this door. This reads as a door. It's right next to an open sloped hallway, but it's a passageway you can't enter. Moving on. I think the animators did a great job with the bread monster at the end of the payload track. It has a summoning animation that plays when the cart opens the door to this chamber. It has an idle animation, and it has a snapping animation when someone gets too close and touches the invisible death trigger. The only thing not to like about this bread monster is the summoning animation ends abruptly. It doesn't flow well into the idle animation. Overall, this bread monster is really impressive. It's super cool, and its inclusion in the map is a highlight of the entire map. I don't really like the look of this map as a whole, but I really like the individual small details present. They sell the location as a moon base and tell an interesting backstory. The pipes with steam look convincingly cold. The jets of air that appear when exiting Red's final spawn sells the idea of there being an air pressure difference. All the small side rooms have interesting details. For example, the room full of bread monster eggs. The room with the flashing lights and blood everywhere. The cryo cylinders in Red's final spawn. All these places give insight to the map's backstory. The third map is called Cascade. It's a King of the Hill map. This map is set in a cold alpine mountainous industrial area. Judging by the text on the map's Steam Workshop page, it seems the creators copied a lot of architectural ideas from existing King of the Hill maps. They seem to be trying to cater to competitive play. Playing the map, it definitely feels like a mixture of existing King of the Hill maps. The gameplay is great. This map plays very well. The back and forth of the two teams fighting feels really good and, for the most part, takes place in the center of the map. There's a large room underneath the central point. Oddly, it sees way less traffic than you'd think. The map doesn't really seem to have any overpowered sentry spots. In terms of game performance, this map runs well. This map is really nice looking. It seems like a lot of effort was put into aesthetics. One strange detail is this map has an unusually large amount of waterfalls. There's one on blue side, one on red side, one in the cave on blue side, one in the cave on red side, one on both sides of the area underneath the control point, and finally, 4 directly underneath the control point. 10 waterfalls is a lot of waterfalls. Perhaps whatever the industrial buildings are doing has something to do with the large abundance of subterranean water. They're definitely also fronts for missile facilities. Actually, what does this facility really do? As it seems like it does a little bit of everything. There's logging, sifting dirt, things being transported by train, mechanical work being done on cars, and all sorts of machines and storage tanks can be found throughout. I have a feeling the creators never nailed down the lore 100%, they just added a small amount of everything and mixed it together. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's actually kind of funny. Welcome to Cascade, the facility that does literally everything. The fourth map is called Chile. It's a single-stage payload map. It's a festive port of Terror, a Halloween map released in the same year's Halloween update. Like Terror, the payload track isn't a static singular line, but rather changes between rounds. How this works is, at certain points in the payload track, the track separates in 2 directions and connects back later on. When a round loads, one of these tracks are randomly selected and the other one is disabled. The inherent randomness probably discourages this map from seeing competitive play. One team might get a more favorable payload track layout than the other team. This map is really bad in a multitude of ways. The first is, it feels like a lazy port. Structures that served a purpose in the Halloween version of the map exist unedited. Like the shack with the black texture to represent an opening near the large pit at the end of the map. It was used as a thematic teleport exit location for players re-entering the overworld, but serves no purpose in this version of the map. This map looks really low effort if you're coming from a map maker's perspective. It looks amateurish. I have to explain something really quickly for this to make sense. This is common knowledge, more or less. Team Fortress 2 contains all the assets from Half-Life 2, the base game, not the 2 episodes. It has all the sound effects, models, and textures from Half-Life 2. You could even open up the maps from the game in Team Fortress 2, and they work. Other than the scripting, NPCs, and AI things. Those don't work. Team Fortress 2 is actually just an elaborate Half-Life 2 mod if you think about it. Why does Team Fortress 2 have all the Half-Life 2 assets? It's probably some weird holdover from the game being bundled together in the orange box or something like that, who knows. Anyways, back on topic. When I look at this map, all I see is the Half-Life 2 texture called Nature/Snowwall 002A, plastered all over the walls. It's distracting. A really common practice among novice Team Fortress 2 map makers is to use Half-Life 2 assets in their maps despite the art style being drastically different and clashing harshly. Even I've done it in the past. My older maps have Half-Life 2 textures on the walls. That's why I recognize it as a newcomer's mistake. I can't see this map as anything other than a novice mapmaker's map project. Looking past the snow wall texture, the map looks unenthusiastically festive. What I mean is, the only thing festive is that there are giant presents everywhere and snow. That's it. It looks like this map was decorated by someone who hates the holidays. Think of all the possible festive things! Snowman, snowflakes, lights, ornaments, nutcrackers, reindeer, stars, bells, food, etc., etc. It's not like there isn't a million possible things to choose from. When you consider what's possible and how all the other festive maps are decorated, a bunch of large presents feels lacking. I dislike this death pit. On the original map, it reads as a death pit because it's full of black nothingness, making it appear bottomless. On this version of the map, it has snow, and so it has an easily distinguishable bottom. This pit raises doubts as to its lethality. Maybe this is a survivable pit if I double jump near the bottom as Scout. Such thoughts come to mind. I think this pit should have been redesigned in the port or kept its black nothingness at the bottom. Same goes for the other pit. The pit at the very end of the map is an exception because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. I dislike the exaggerated detailing aesthetic in this map. This is a personal preference thing. I'm not a fan of details such as this sloppy looking fence near Red's first spawn. It's kooky and wacky, but to me it just looks like poor construction. The gameplay on this map is average. The worst parts are probably the start and the end of the map. The starting area seems poorly balanced. It heavily favors the red team. Because of this, often games will start and end without the blue team pushing the payload car to the first checkpoint. Having rounds where the blue team makes no progress are kinda boring. The end of the map has the inverse problem. It's a bit too easy for the attacking team to get the cart around and into the pit at the end. Closing thoughts? The map feels a little cramped in certain places. The fifth map is called Doublefrost. It's a capture the flag map. It's a winter daytime festive port of Doublefrost, a Valve-made map from 2009. This map feels like a rush job. I wonder where the secret room is. It could be anywhere. Full disclosure, this bug was eventually patched out. A lot of the smaller details feel lacking. This snow globe on the table looks nice. Oh, it's actually a pyro back tank cosmetic stuck through the table. This tree on the other side of the map looks nice. Oh, it's actually a hat cosmetic clipping through the table. Oh. The swapping of textures to snow-covered ones is nice. But why does the smaller part of this red building have a regular trim with no snow? It's outdoors. Why is there snow underneath the snow? But only on this side, not on this side. Or for that matter, the rest of the roof. Snow underneath snow. Is this why it's called Doublefrost? Why is there a tree floating? Why is there a missing texture in the ceiling, making it possible to see through it? Why is there a gap behind one of the pillars in the secret room? All the rest are against the walls. And why aren't the pillars aligned with the vertical stripe in the texture behind them? I'm sorry if you could never unsee this, the texture doesn't align with the pillars at all. This map has a specific bug that really bugs me. The map uses invisible trigger brushes to change the fog the player is witnessing. When transitioning between going indoors and outdoors, the fog changes. It gets thicker outdoors to simulate snowy visibility conditions. That's pretty normal. What's wrong with this is this area right here. I haven't looked at the decompiled map, but I have a suspicion the triggers overlap or something because by simply moving left and right quickly, you can continue with the indoor fog outdoors. This gives a small advantage to whoever does this, as it's a bit easier to see in the distance with indoor fog. This map has a lot of miniature trains hidden throughout. It's a fun detail, I suppose. Strange in places, but fun. If these snowmen are a reference to something, I have no idea what they're a reference to. Now this is going to sound strange, but to me, they look like gender-swapped Rick and Morty. Weirdest observation I've ever made. If you took Rick and Morty, inverted their genders, and then made them snowmen based on the results, this is how they would look. I'd understand completely if you decided to stop watching this video right now. I'd probably do the same. Anyways, let's move on. This map doesn't play very well, but let me frame this in a more positive way. The map plays like the original. There's no front line. The fighting occurs in pockets of small uncoordinated combat encounters. Players don't play towards the objective, but rather play for the sake of getting kills. In other words, players are just deathmatching. Some engineer gameplay takes place in the back, and some sniper versus sniper play happens on the battlements, but for the most part, it's just deathmatching. It's a different experience, a different flavor of Team Fortress 2 gameplay, one that's friendlier to new and novice players. There's no expectation to do well, so there's no burden on the players to perform. They can take their time and take things slow. It's good for the game as a whole to have low skill maps. I'm not a fan of the slippery ice floors in the basements. It's an interesting concept on paper and looks nice, but doesn't really work out well. The ice floors could be cool, no pun intended, if they're in a location where it's optional to stand on them. If you could avoid them, that means you could also choose to travel over them, which would create an interesting risk versus reward gameplay decision. Placing slippery floors in a location where you have to travel is comparatively less interesting. I'm just saying all this in a hypothetical sort of way. You couldn't move the slippery floors anywhere else on this map, it wouldn't make sense. The sixth and final map is called Polar. It's a single stage payload map set in a snow-covered industrial forest area at night. This map plays well. There's a good back and forth between the teams. It seems like the majority of fighting occurs outdoors on the main path through the map. This map has no shortage of side paths. Most of the time, if there's a strong sentry nest, there's usually an alternative way to tackle it. The side paths are also useful places to place sneaky teleporter exits and for spies to decloak. The final area is a lot like the final area of most payload maps, in that it's pretty difficult for the attacking team to push the payload cart to the end. Between the third and final checkpoint, there's a closed gate blocking the payload track. Leading up to the gate is a switch on the ground. When the payload cart reaches the switch, it triggers the gate to open slowly. While opening, the cart is temporarily immobilized. Basically, this map uses the same mechanic found on Payload Barn Blitz. It gives the defending team some extra time to regroup and get to the front lines. It's an interesting balance choice. This map looks nice. There are a lot of well-crafted small details, like this broken staircase. There's some debris on the ground and a few bricks missing from the wall to better indicate that there used to be a staircase there. Quite a subtle detail. I think the gorge near Blue's first spawn is well made. It seems like a lot of detail was put into things you'd only see for a brief moment while you fall into the pit, like this area. One strange detail is Blue's first spawn has a manhole in it with a cover that's partially open. That's odd. One aspect of respawn rooms I find intriguing is the thematic explanation as to how the mercenaries entered them in the first place. Sometimes the in-universe explanation is as simple as, they walked through a door. I like Blue's first spawn on Payload Upward because it's implied the Blue team entered via a suspended cargo gondola. Here on this map, there's a partially open manhole. Could it be the Blue team came from the sewers? Maybe they just walked down this flight of stairs. If they came from the sewers, they probably smell really bad. Remember that the next time you're playing on this map. The Blue team smell bad. One hard to notice detail on this map is that the windows somehow project light onto the walls they're attached to. This isn't how light works at all in real life. While I don't like that their window lighting deviates from reality, I respect the artistic decision. The outcome looks really nice. This is not how lighting works, but it really looks festive. I think this map captures the festive holiday spirit with its visuals. Sure, there are presents everywhere, but unlike Chile, they're normal-sized. They're also placed in such a way that it feels like they're important and being transported or hidden around. Some are even knocked over, for instance. There's something really festive about the one that's highlighted with light underneath the floor. This map also has other decorative elements, like the trees with ornaments. There are two locations in particular that create the feeling of a cold winter night around the holidays. The clearing that's visible from Blue's forward spawn room, and the clearing that's behind the final checkpoint. Near Red's final spawn rooms is a clearing with a lake. On the other side is the cutout of a deer by a fire. This is a nice quaint scene that really invokes the festive idea of warming oneself by a fire. The thing is, it's kind of sad. This guy's all alone. He should have a friend to be with. Oh well. I know the creators of this map listen to feedback, so I should say, don't actually do that. Don't actually give him a friend. Stick with your artistic vision on this one. The deer being all alone generates a sad emotion in the viewer, and that's rare and precious. If the deer had a friend, it wouldn't be so sad, but then you lose the entire point of a scene like this. And that's about it. These are my thoughts on the 6 maps added in the Smissmas 2021 update. Closing thoughts, I think all the maps were really good. I said a lot of negative things about Chile and Doublefrost, but they're not horrible maps. They may be flawed, but it's possible to play them and still derive enjoyment from the experience. Remember, it's okay to see flaws in things and still like them. With that, thanks for watching. Au revoir.